Hello everybody, and welcome to another month of our crochet series here at the Cuyahoga Falls Library. My name is Marianne and I'm super excited to get crocheting with you all. This month, for this very cold January, our project is Amigurumi Snowmen. Amigurumi is a Japanese word meaning knit or crochet toys, and they are one of my favorite things to work on. For this month, I have two amigurumi patterns for us. The first one on our pattern sheet here is Winterfred the Snowman. Here is an example of Winterfred. Over here. And our second pattern is Snopia, which is this snowman. The difference between the two is Snopia is crocheted in the round like most amigurumi are. Winterfred is actually a rectangle that we then fold and shape to be a snowman, and then we accessorize them with our scarves, our hats, and our faces. So that is the main difference between the two. In this video, I will be going through both of them. I am going to start with Snopia. So for both patterns, we need a G hook, which is a 4mm, 4.25mm, or 4.5mm. Again, this is just the recommended hook size. If you realize that your gauge is tight or loose and needs a different size hook, you are more than welcome to use a different hook. We are using worsted weight acrylic yarn in white for our snowmen. I also have worsted weight acrylic in black and in blue. This is for when we go to accessorize our snowman. I will be using the blue mainly because the black yarn does not show up well on camera, and it would be useful if you guys could see what I am actually doing. So I'm going to use the blue for my snowman. Other supplies, I have polyfill. You are more than welcome to use another kind of stuffing. If you use plastic bags, make a good stuffing. You can use old fabric scraps. You can also use yarn scraps. But today I'm using regular polyfill. I've got yarn needles for when it comes to assembling my snowman. I've got some buttons and googly eyes so that I can accessorize my snowman however I want. And then I've got some orange felt so that I can cut out a little carrot nose. But all of that is going to go to the side for a little bit later. So for Sophia, we are going to be crocheting in the round. I'm going to start with my slip knot. You are more than welcome, if you're comfortable, you can do a magic ring and start your round that way. I am always more comfortable with a slip knot and a chain 2, but that preference is up to you. You can start either way and the pattern will be the same, no matter which way you start. If you want to do the magic ring, we do have a magic ring tutorial on this YouTube channel, so feel free to check that out or ask us in class. Today we are going to start with a chain 2, and we're starting with a base of 6. So row 1, we're going to do 6 single crochet in the second chain from our hook. You have your 6 stitches, you have the start of your circle. For row 2, we are going to be increasing by 6 every row until we get to 24 in row 4. So for row 2, we are going to single crochet 2 in each stitch around. This is also an increase. So if you need a refresher when you're going into your stitches, let me refocus my camera here. So this is my stitch. I'm going to insert there, and do a regular single crochet. For a regular stitch, this is where I would move on to this next stitch. However, since we're increasing, I want to go back into that same hole. I'm doing 2 stitches in the same hole. And that is how you increase your stitches. So this is at the end of row 2. I have 12 stitches. So for row 3, we still want to be adding 6 stitches every single row until row 4. We don't want to increase any more than that because then our snowman's not going to quite look right. So what we're going to do is in this next stitch, we are going to do an increase. So single crochet 1 and then go in that same hole, do another single crochet, and then in the next stitch we are not going to do an increase. That is just a normal single crochet, and then I'm going to move on to the next stitch, and this stitch we are going to do an increase. So all we're doing is spacing out our increases a little bit. That way it increases at a steady rate that's not too slow so that our project starts curling, but it's also not too much that our project curls a different way. This way our circle keeps going out flat on the table. Alright, at the end you should have 18 stitches. And now row 4 is going to be our last row where we are increasing. So we are going to, in this next stitch, we are going to increase. And then we're still spacing out our increases, but now we're spacing them out a little more. So in the next 2 stitches, we are doing just 2 regular single crochet. So those 2 stitches, regular single crochet, regular single crochet. In this 3rd stitch, I'm doing an increase. Single crochet, increase. Single crochet, increase. Alright, and once you finish, you have 24 stitches. If you wanted to make your snowman bigger, of course you could keep going, but for sake of this pattern, we're going to stop here. This is about how big our circle is, and it is flat on the table. So now what we want to do for rows 5 through 10, we are just doing regular single crochet all the way around. We are not increasing, and we're not decreasing yet either. We are just doing a regular single crochet for rows 5 through 10. And what this is going to do is it's going to start forming the head of our snowman. So I've only done about one, not even one whole row, and you can already tell that our project is starting to curve downward a little bit. This is where we want to be. So I was just trying to get my camera to be focused. There we go. So it is starting to curl a little bit. We are going to keep doing that until row 10. Because we're just single crocheting, I am going to pause the video just for the sake of time. That way this video is not too long for you all. And I will resume at row 10. So see you then. Alright, I am back. We just finished row 10, which is our last row of single crochet. So this is what our snowman head is looking like thus far. And now in row 11 is where we're going to start decreasing so that we can form the neck and give them that snowman shape. So for row 11, we are going to single crochet 2 together. And single crochet 2 together is you insert into the stitch like your regular single crochet. You grab your yarn and pull it through the stitch. You have 2 loops on your hook. And then you're not going to finish that stitch. You are going to insert right into the next stitch as well. Grab the yarn, pull it through. You have 3 loops on your hook, and then you grab the yarn and pull through all 3. What that does is, you went through 2 stitches, so you took up the space of 2 stitches, but it only presents as 1 stitch. So that is a decrease. I am going to frog that stitch, and I'm going to show you another technique, and this is up to your personal preference. But another way to decrease is using what's called an invisible decrease. An invisible decrease is where you decrease just like we did, but you only go through the front loops of your stitch. So the loop closest to you, you kind of go between the V. So there's a back loop, which is furthest away from you, and front loop. Regular single crochet goes through both loops. We just want to go through the front loop. And we're going to do the same thing. I went through that front loop, grab the yarn, pull it through, and then I'm going to pick up the front loop of that next stitch as well. Grab the yarn again, pull through the stitch. I still end up with 3 on my hook. Grab the yarn, pull through all 3. For small projects like this, the invisible decrease is useful, but it's better on big projects where your decreases might be more visible. Because our snowmen are so small, and we also might be covering up the neck with a scarf anyway, it doesn't really matter which decrease you choose to use. But I did want to mention it just in case you're interested. I am just going to do regular single crochet 2 together though. So, single crochet 2 together, and then we're doing 1 regular single crochet stitch. So we're spacing out our decreases, but just a little bit. So I did my regular single crochet. This next stitch, I am decreasing again in the next 2 stitches. Regular single crochet, single crochet 2 together or a decrease, single crochet 2 together, decrease, single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2, single crochet. So we can see this is like a very fast decrease. So we end up with 16 stitches. So we decreased 8 stitches. If your stitch count is slightly off, that is okay. If you're just, off by 1 or 2, no worries at all. As long as you notice that your project went in a little bit, that is all that matters. So that is just the neck of our snowman. So our next row, row 12, we are back to increasing. And we're increasing really quickly because we want the neck to be, very short and a quick decrease, and then we want the body to go back out really quickly. So for row 12, in our next stitch here, we are doing an increase, and then 1 single crochet, and then another increase. Kind of the same as the last row, where we're just doing one single crochet and then an increase. It's just this one we are now doing increases instead of decreases. Alright, so we just finished our row 12. So right now we're going to be at 24 stitches. We want to get up to 30. The reason for this is right now 24 is the size that we had for our head. We want to get up to 30 so that our body is bigger than our head. So for row 13, we are still increasing. So we're going to single crochet 2 in the next stitch, so that's an increase. And then we're single crocheting in the next 3 stitches. So we're spacing out our decreases, or our increases just a little bit more because we're increasing, but we don't want to increase too much because we don't want our head and our body of our snowman to be disproportional. And again, is I'm doing an increase and then 3 regular single crochet in the next 3 stitches. That is an increase. 1, 2, 3. Increase. Almost there. 1, 2, 3. Increase. So you'll notice it kind of is looking like a head and a body. It's kind of looking like a neck right there. So now that was row 13, should have 30 stitches to end. And then we are back to single crocheting. We are going to be single crocheting for quite a while for rows 14 through 21. You'll notice that as we are single crocheting, because we increase so much, our project is going to go out just a little bit more, but it will start to curl down and form the shape of our snowman. Alright, he is shaping up, or she is shaping up, whatever you want to name your snowman. He, she, or they are shaping up great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video again, and we are going to single crochet until row 21, and I will see you in row 21. Alright friends, we are back. This is after I finished row 21, which was all single crochet, so you can see our head, our neck, our body, our snowman is really taking shape. So for rows 22, 23, and 24, we are going to be decreasing to close up our little snow person. Row 22, what we're doing is we're going to do 3 regular single crochet, and then a decrease. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, regular single crochet, and then a decrease. 3 regular single crochet, decrease. Whoop. Gonna deal with some fuzz in my yarn there. One, loop, 2, 3, decrease, alright, at the end of row 22 we should be back to 24. If you're 1 or 2 off, that is okay. As long as you're not decreasing too quickly, we're going to a steady decrease, so that makes a neat closing for our snowman. If it's not super neat, don't worry, it will be hidden on the bottom of your snow person. Alright, for row 23, we are still decreasing, but we're spacing them out just a little bit less, so we're going to do decrease, and then 2 regular single crochet. Decrease, single crochet, 2, decrease, regular single crochet in 2 stitches, decrease, 2 regular single crochet, decrease, 2 regular single crochet, another decrease, 2 regular single crochet, check where I'm at, sort out some yarn tangles. At the end of row 23 we should have 18, roughly 18 stitches. Cool. I need one more decrease to get my 18. You can see our hole is starting to close. My yarn got a little bit knotted as I was crocheting, oh no. It's all good, it wasn't too bad. Got it. Alright, now for row 24, we are going to single crochet 1 regular single crochet, and then do a decrease. 1 regular single crochet, a decrease. 1 regular single crochet, decrease. 1 regular, decrease. 1 single crochet, decrease. Check where I'm at. My pattern should be at 12. My last stitch there. So at this point, since our hole is getting pretty small, this is where we want to stuff our snow person, our Snowfia. So again, I have regular polyfill that I'm going to be using today. However, you can use whatever stuffing or filling you prefer. I'm going to leave a big loop there, find it easier. And as you're stuffing your snow person, you don't want to stuff too full, because if you stuff too much, it'll put pressure on the stitches. It'll start to press them out and you'll be able to see the stuffing through the stitches. But you also want to stuff firmly enough that he has like some firm to him, that he's sturdy, and you know, is able, hopefully, to stand up on his own, kind of just like that. So it's pretty good how they are, but I'm going to just keep just a little bit extra, a little bit of extra stuffing. Still want them to have a sturdiness, a firmness to them, but we do want to have still some give. Make them a fluffy little cuddly snowman. Alright, I'm going to insert my hook back into my loop. And for our final row, row 25, we are just single crocheting 2 together down to 6 stitches. At this point, we are just trying to get the hole small enough that we can use our tail to close it up. So I'm just going to do several decreases. It might feel a little weird. It's probably going to feel a little tight. That is okay. Again, it's going to be at the bottom of our snowman. And usually decrease until I have roughly 6 stitches left. Okay, I think this is 7 stitches, but it is a pretty small hole. So at this point, I'm going to cut off my yarn. I'm going to leave a really generous tail. Do a chain stitch to fasten. Oop, I lost my yarn. Chain stitch to fasten off there. Pull it through, pull it tight. And so the reason I left that long tail is to close up my snowman. So I like to take a yarn needle, take that tail, weave it through the yarn needle, and you can do a drawstring where you weave in and out of those last 7 stitches and then pull it shut. So that's my weaving in and out, and as you pull it, it will pull that hole shut. Because it's so small, you're also welcome to just kind of go back and forth until the hole is closed. Because I pulled it, I do have some kind of more open stitches down here, so I'm going to weave through those a couple of times. I'm just weaving my needle with that tail, kind of just weaving it around to close up some of these holes and tidy up this bottom of our snowman. Because we've woven through so much, it is probably pretty secure, but I do always like to end with a knot. So I'll pick a stitch anywhere and I'll start to go through just like this, but then I don't pull through all the way. I leave that loop, take my needle and go through that loop just to add an extra knot for an extra layer of security. That has closed the bottom of our snowman. My favorite things about amigurumi is I still have this tail end, and instead of having to weave it in, jab your yarn needle or your crochet hook in. You can also use your yarn needle, and I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to pull it through. Oh, maybe my yarn kind of frayed up on me, but that's okay. Pull it inside. That was not the neatest, but it still works. I'm going to use my hook to kind of jab those last ends in there. So my end is mostly on the inside of my snowman, and then this fuzz that kind of came out with the polyfill and the frayed yarn, I'm just going to snip off. Fluffing up your snowman, and there we go. So now for accessorizing. This is going to be on page 3 of the pattern. We've got a hat, scarf, carrot nose, and eyes. So we're going to do the hat first. The pattern does say with black yarn. You know, it's supposed to be like a top hat, so traditionally would be black. I'm going to be using blue today because it shows up better on the camera, and also just a little more fun. Blue's my favorite color, so I would prefer a blue hat. So again, we are starting with a chain 2, but if you want to do the magic ring, you can do the magic ring if you would like. It starts the same way. We're working in the round with a base of 6. So whether you have a ring or a chain 2, either in your ring or in the second chain from hook, we are going to do 6 stitches. My 6, and starts the exact same way as our head of the snowman. We're going to get up to 24 stitches. That way our hat fits right on top of our snowman head. So for row 2, we're increasing in each stitch around. Alright, the end of row 2, we've got 12 stitches. In row 3, we are going to increase in one stitch and then single crochet in the next stitch. We're spacing out our increases just like we did for Sophia. Make sure that I have my 18. And then the next one, row 4, we want to end up with 24 stitches. So we are going to increase and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Increase, single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Increase, 2 regular stitches, increase, single crochet in 2 stitches, increase, in 2 stitches, single crochet in 2 stitches. We got 24. Alright, so now we are doing a round of back loop single crochet, and this is gonna kind of cause the top hat shape of our hat. So to do back loop, normally single crochet is you go through both loops of that V. For back loop single crochet, let me move my stitches up here. This is your front loop, this one's your back loop. So we're going into the back loop only. So kind of go into the middle of the V. And then you only have 1 loop on your hook. And then you do a regular single crochet. And we are going to do that in all 24 stitches around. And what this does is you'll see, because we're only going in the back loop, it's leaving that front loop visible. So it's kind of creating this ridge. And it also helps to kind of shift your project so that it moves down really quickly, which shapes our little top hat for our snowman. Cool, so you see after that row of back loop single crochet, I kind of have like a little tray, like a bowl shape. It is starting already to curl downward really quickly. For rows 6 through 9, we are just single crocheting. We're going straight down. So I am going to pause the video while I do these single crochet rows, and I will see you at the end of row 9 so that we can do row 10 together. Alright, this is at the end of row 9, so our hat is really taking shape. Honestly, if you wanted to give your snowman a fez instead, you could fasten off here and give them a fez. Before the top hat shape, we are going to create a brim, which means we're going to increase really quickly so that it adds like kind of a brim to our hat. So for this, we're going to increase in the next stitch, single crochet 2 into that same stitch, and then we're just doing 1 regular single crochet. Then increase again, single crochet, increase, single crochet. So it is going out very fast, which is what we want. We didn't want to, if we do it too slowly, it would kind of give them a really bulky brim, which is why I only did 1 row of increasing. So you'll see as we're nearing the end of the row, it's already started to curl out. So you will end up with anywhere but, I ended up with 32 stitches. If you end up with more than that, I might have had a few extra single crochet slipped into mine, but as long as you have anywhere in that 32 to like 36ish range of stitches, that is fine. The stitch count here doesn't matter quite as much because it is our last row. As long as you notice that your hat has a brim to it, you are good. For our final row, we're just going to add a kind of neat border by doing a slip stitch row. So slip stitch is you insert into the stitch, you grab the yarn, and you just slip all the way through. So we go through the stitch and through the loop on our hook. We only yarn over once. This makes a really tight and short stitch. So it's really nice kind of for like last rows on things. It adds a cool, like a nice border. I'll say this row is optional. You do not have to add the border if you're happy with how your brim looks. I just personally liked how adding the slip stitch looked, but it is totally optional. It is your snowman, so you can accessorize and personalize however you would like. And in terms of attaching the hat to your snowman, you can sew him on with a yarn needle and some yarn. So that's how the hat looks once it has a brim. But I think an easy way too is you can also hot glue the hat onto your snowman. That was probably the easiest way and also the neatest way, just because it's kind of an awkward shape to try and sew, but that is up to you. So now our snowman has a little hat. You can kind of curl up the brim. it's helpful to you, you can also use sewing pins, and you can actually pin in place before you start sewing. If you do choose to sew, I'll just demonstrate what I felt was the easiest way to go about it. So I'm just threading my yarn needle. I'm going to use blue yarn so it blends in. And I would kind of position any side of the snowman. Can be the front of your snowman. I would kind of just, if there's a side that you prefer, if there's a side that turned out better than others, I would just select that one. And then when I sew on, you're welcome to stuff the hat if you would like. I am not going to. I didn't really think it was needed for something so small, but that is up to you. I'm going to sew along the brim of the hat. So I'm going to insert my needle in the top of the hat just to get a space. I'm going to come out very close to the brim, and I'm going to pull through slowly. We're going to hide the end of that yarn inside of our hat. And I'm going to come back up through the brim of the hat. And then I'm going to go in and out around the brim. And when I go in, I'm just going to I'm going to pick up a stitch of the white from the head of my snowman, and then come back out at another place on the brim of the hat. You don't need to pick up every single stitch, but you can go around as many times as you need to for your hat to feel secure. I'm just being careful not to pull too tight. If I pull too tight, it kind of starts doing like this. It's going to start curling my edges. Kind of bunching up my hat. So I want to avoid that, which is why I'm going to pull very gently. And just keep going in and out, slowly turning my snowman. And so once I've gone around once, I can kind of see how my hat's standing up. I can make sure it's still in the right place and everything. If I feel like that is secure enough, I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to stab my needle all the way through, come out at another point on the hat, pull the yarn through, and then cut it off. Again, if you wanted to keep going around, you could make it more secure. You're more than welcome to do that. I felt like a few stitches is, enough for a little decorative snowman. So now Sophia has a hat. Next, we're gonna do a scarf. So the scarf is just a very simple chain and double crochet. The pattern says to chain 50. But you do not have to do that many, or you can do more. It really depends on how long you want your snowman's scarf to be. I did double crochet for my scarves because I liked how it looked. I also liked the height that it gave after one row. However, you're more than welcome to do any stitch you would like. If you want to do a row of slip stitch, if you just want to use a chain, you can. Again, it is your snowman. Feel free to customize however you like. The chain is going to be the length of your scarf. So while the pattern says chain 50, that's just what I did for mine. You can kind of have your snowman, and you can kind of see how the chain goes. I just joined the scarf right about here so that he had two tails that hung. So if you want really long tails, go ahead. If you want a short scarf, you can do a shorter chain. Say, if you're doing double crochet, you're going to skip the first 3 stitches. So I just added 3 stitches. So when you're turning, double crochet, because double crochet is such a tall stitch, instead of skipping just one chain, we're skipping the first 3. So we're actually going into this 4th chain from hook, and a double crochet is you yarn over or yarn under before going into the stitch, you insert into the stitch, grab the yarn, pull through the stitch, grab the yarn again, pull through 2 of the loops so you end up with 2, grab the yarn again, pull through the remaining 2. So you'll see as we're going, it's just adding a nice height to our scarf. It's also, because it's, you know, a chain row and I have a really tight gauge, it's going to give a nice curl to the scarf. We are almost there. I know you've been just watching me double crochet for quite a while here, but I promise we're almost done. There's also option, you can add more rows if you really want a really bulky scarf for your snowman. I am going to fasten off here. And I am going to just weave in these ends real quick, just kind of hide them in the scarf. Only going to weave them in for a few stitches. And then trim them off. Alright, so now our snowman is going to have a cute little scarf. So bring Sophia back over here, and as far as connecting the scarf, you can decide how you want to style it. If you want it to be like crisscrossed in front, you can do that. If you want to sew it all the way around, you can do that. If you want to have it real loose, you know, you can do that. You can also do it, connect it in an X off to the side. That is all your choice. You are also more than welcome to just tie it in a knot, especially if you had a really long scarf. Tying it might work. I made mine, you know, a little bit short because I am just going to use my yarn needle. You can sew all around. Oop, there was some white fuzz left. Get off my snowman. So I'm going to decide that this is the front of my little Snowfia. And I am just going to do a few stitches at the X here where the two sides of the scarf connect. I'm just going to pull it through real quick. Pull it through just the first one. And just do a couple stitches there. I'm not even fully connecting the scarf to the snowman. I'm just connecting those two ends of the scarf to themselves, just with a few simple stitches. So I wanted to stay in an X, but it's already wrapped around my snowman, and I think that is secure enough. If you want it to be more secure, you are welcome. You can weave in and out all around the neck of your snowman. That is totally fine. And then to hide my end, I am going to go through the snowman and just hide that blue yarn inside the snowman. Trim off that edge. Now he has a scarf. Neat. For the face of our snowman and other details, you're welcome to use buttons. You can sew them on with needle and thread, or you can just hot glue them. Hot glue is probably the easiest and neatest way to go, but you can add buttons to the front. You can use the same buttons for eyes. Those are a little big. You can embroider eyes if you're confident in your embroidery. If you want to be a little bit fun and goofy, googly eyes are always super fun, at least in my opinion. And then you are welcome to embroider a nose. I am not great at embroidery, so I just am going to cut a very tiny triangle out of a piece of orange felt. So kind of cut a big triangle and then make it smaller. And I would just hot glue or sew that onto the snowman. And for this guy, I think I am going to go googly eyes. I think that's very fun. So I would just hot glue those on, and that is our Snowfia. So that was the first snowman. Now we're going to move on to Winterfred. Winterfred is much simpler, so if you've done Snowfia with me, then you're definitely going to be able to do Winterfred. The hat and scarf and face details are all the same for Winterfred. We are using the same yarn as well as the same hook, so you don't have to change anything out. What we're going to do is this is my slip knot, just cast it onto my hook. You're just connecting to my hook. And we are going to chain 27. Alright, so once you have a chain 27 for 33 rows, row 1 and then rows 2 through 32, we are going to be just single crocheting. We are making a rectangle that we will then fold and shape into a Winterfred. So we can do this first row of single crochet together, but after that I will pause the video so that you're not just watching me do the same thing over and over. I try to make these videos not super long for you all. But I'll pause the video and then come back when we have our rectangle, and I will show you how to assemble your rectangle into a snowman. Alright, that is our first row, friends. We're just going to keep going, just regular single crochet, nothing fancy. And I will see you at row 32 so that we can assemble our snowman. Alright, I am back with my rectangle of crochet. We are now going to assemble our snowman. So, how we're going to fold our project is we're going to turn it first, and so this is our chain row where we started. This is our current row. We are going to fold it like this. And so the first part is to connect these two edges. We're going to connect our current single crochet row to our initial chain row. There's two ways you can do this. You can either fasten off your hook and use a yarn needle to sew that together, or let me get my yarn on my way here. We're going to single crochet down the edge to connect the two. So I like to hold my project like this. You don't need to do your turning chain because this isn't a regular row. And I'm going to insert into the first single crochet stitch and then also a chain stitch. And then you just do a single crochet. You pull through both sides of the stitches and then pull through both loops. And you do that all the way down. It should match up pretty well because you should have the same number of single crochet stitches as chain stitches. But if you notice that any aren't matching up right, that is okay. As long as you're picking up a single crochet and a chain stitch and you're connecting those sides, you're all good. I like to stop every once in a while and just make sure that I'm still lined up right. Make sure you're still lined up. Make sure my edges are still straight together. Alright, and once you get to the end here, I always like to double check that there aren't any major holes in my seam, but that is pretty good. A little bit of fuzz, and I'm just going to fasten off. Alright, so we will be turning this project inside out just to hide that seam. But first what we want to do is I'm going to close either the top or the bottom of my piece. We're going to be closing them in 3 places using a drawstring method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 3 pretty generous strands of yarn on the pattern. I wrote to do between 12 to 15 inches. would rather have too much than not enough. So just 3 strands of white yarn. And then I'm going to take one of them, put it into my yarn needle, and try the other side because that side of my yarn decided to split on me. There we go. And I just do it with a single, so I kind of have it like this, where this tail's there so that it doesn't come out of my needle, and then I'm just using this strand. We're going to close up, let's just say that this is the top of our project. To use the drawstring method, we're going to go along the edge stitches. We don't want to be too far down because that'll add like a ruffle on top, which we don't want. But if we go too close to the edge, then we're not going to have enough to pull in. So kind of like this one last stitch is where you want to go. And we're just going to weave our needle in and out. Approximately, you'll notice like kind of like one per row. So like this is one row, that's a row, this is a row, this a row, this a row. That's kind of how we're weaving in and out. If you miss one here and there, that is not a huge deal. Again, this is either going to be on the bottom of our snowman or covered up with a hat. So as long as we're able to close, oh, I grabbed the wrong end. Oops. I grabbed my tail thinking it was the end of my needle, and I have to go through and do that again, but that's okay. There are worse things. Alright, so we are just going to weave in and out here. And I will grab the correct one. Because on the end here I am going to leave a little bit of a tail because we're going to tie that in a knot later. And I'm going to continue my weaving in and out, staying close to the edge of my project. Through, in and out, in and out, in and out. And do that all the way around. Pull the yarn through. And so now we have these 2 ends we've woven in. We're just going to tie them in a knot, and we want it to be really tight. It might not close the hole fully, but it'll get us close enough that we can use a yarn needle to close anything remaining. So I'm going to pull it as tight as I can, tie it in a knot, maybe even tie it in another knot, and then check how that is. That actually closed really, really well. And remember, these ends are going to be on the inside of our project, so we're just going to turn this guy inside out. So that hides the seam. It also makes our drawstring look a little bit neater. You can decide whether you want that to be the top or bottom of your snowman, depending on, how neat it is. Very nice. So we kind of have like a very narrow ghost right now. Kind of looks like. Alright, so the next step is forming the head of our snowman. We're going to fasten on our needle again with another of those strands. And we're going to use the same drawstring method, but we're going to do it about in the top third of our project. So we don't want to do it right in the center because then our snowman's head and body would be the exact same size. We want to go up a little bit closer to the top. We're forming a head shape, but we do want it to be smaller than the body. So it's approximate, I said approximate the top third. So roughly this will be his head. I also apologize for the camera. The camera does not love white yarn. So you'll see if I remove it, it's fine. I put it back on and it does that weird lighting thing. So I do apologize for that. We'll try to adjust the focus. Maybe bring it up a little brighter will help. I think I made it worse. Bring the brightness down. Okay. Maybe if I take a piece of paper. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. We love technology sometimes. So, and it's not as easy to see if it's against a white piece of paper, but at least it's not the flashing light at you. Alright, so to form our head, we're going to go right around here. This same drawstring method, we're going to be weaving in and out. The hard thing here is that the row is not completely lined up, so you're trying to keep them as even as possible, but once we, twist it and tie it all together, it will not be as obvious if you've missed a few stitches here and there. So don't stress about it. I'm leaving a generous tail there. And we're going to continue this weaving in and out all the way around. Flip my snowman over. Oop. Be careful not to pick up both sides of your snowman. We're just going through one side. I almost picked up both sides, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not what we're aiming to do. Alright, go in and out there. Take my yarn needle out and put it aside, and now we're going to pull these strings as tightly as we can. Now, one important thing is before you tie it close, this was more just a test to make sure it could close. It will look better once it's stuffed, I promise. One thing we're going to do is we're going to stuff our head. If I go ahead and tie it, then our head will have no stuffing. So before tying that, just wanted to test to make sure it would look okay. At this point too, if you're like, oh, I wanted a bigger head or you want it smaller, you could take out the drawstring that we just made and do it again at a lower or higher point. If you notice your head is uneven, you can also take it out and amend that. But if you're happy with where your head is and the shape and size, go ahead and stuff it. Same idea that we did with Sophia. You don't want to stuff it too much, but you do want to stuff it so that it's firm and gives it a shape, but not so much that the stitches are being stretched and you can start seeing the stuffing. So now that we're there, we are going to pull our snowman closed. And remember too that this seam will be hidden with a scarf. My favorite thing about this pattern is that all the kind of necessary unneatness or places where it's easy to make mistakes are okay, because we're just going to hide them later. So you see that does look a lot better now that we've stuffed and completely tied him. I'm going to use my crochet hook to grab these ends. And hide them just inside my snowman. It also kind of just doubles as extra stuffing. I made really long tails. Again, I just always am worried that I'm going to run out of yarn mid-sewing, but you could feel free to cut those ends as well. They don't have to stay long. So that is that. The last step is to use the drawstring method to close up the bottom of your project. So I'm going to grab that last strand of yarn that I cut. And you are welcome to stuff at this point. I prefer to weave in my yarn first and then stuff, only because then my needle isn't getting stuck in the polyfill or whatever stuffing I'm choosing. So same thing down here. We are weaving in and out, pull the yarn through, leave a generous tail for knotting at the end. And we are continuing on our way. Here. Cool. So I'm just going to pull a little bit, just make sure I got that right. That looks great. And now I'm going to stuff the body. Again, adding little by little, and then I kind of check the shape, check the texture, check how he's feeling. Make sure the stitches look okay, make sure he has a good shape. I think just this stuffing and then we'll be good. Oop, went a little off screen there, but he is all stuffed. He looks great. So now we're going to pull this, and as you pull, I'm going to shove in the rest of the polyfill. It's kind of trying to escape. Tie this as tightly as you can. And you'll see on this one, I do kind of still have a hole there, because the body had slightly more stitches than the head, so the more stitches you have, you know, the more likely it is that you might have a gap at the end of your drawstring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that tail that I left, put it onto my yarn needle, and I'm just going to kind of weave through some of the stitches of the hole. And I'm just kind of giving it some extra stitches to close it up. The good thing is it'll be on the bottom of the snowman, so it's not going to be visible, it's all good. But it is going to make sure that he is all closed up and that the polyfill cannot escape. So it doesn't really take much. Again, the drawstring does work to close most of it. Sometimes it just needs a little extra stitches for extra security. You're more than welcome to knot it at the end. This is my other tail that I'm just going to cut off. They wove it in and I thought I hid it enough, but it came back. Wanted to say hello. So we're just going to trim that one. Continue. Since this is the tail and it's already pretty well woven into the drawstring, I am not going to knot it again. I'm just going to do one more stitch here. My hole is pretty closed up. Stab that needle into your snowman, pull it out at another point, take out the needle, cut the yarn. And there we have our second snowman shape. That is Winterfred, and you can accessorize him the same way that we did Snowfia. So feel free to use the felt, and the buttons, the hat, and the scarf pattern are the same. Accessorize him as much as you want. If you wanted to add arms or anything, you could use pipe cleaners, just little brown pipe cleaners to add little twigs for arms. And yeah, the important thing is that you have fun. I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I would love to see your finished projects. Have a wonderful day, everybody.